The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. And it's just after 11 here. I think we're just going to hang on for a couple more minutes and wait for a couple more attendees. So bear with us. I'll be back online in just a moment. So we've got a couple more that's joined us. We're just going to hang on for another minute here and almost ready to go. Just wait for a couple more attendees. Thanks for your patience. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us today in our latest Bluebeam review webinar for document setup and management. For those of you joining us here for the first time, my name is Mike Nelson, and for the better part of 20 years, I've spent my time in the design and construction industry in Vancouver. And started out in structural engineering, shifted into architecture, and dabbled in some prefab structures and residential design as well. For those of you returning and joining us for our second Bluebeam webinar, thanks for coming back. Regarding today's topic, setting up and managing a construction set of drawings can sometimes be a daunting task. Managing changes, issues, questions, and responses can take up a lot of time. Fortunately, Bluebeam offers a suite of tools that make it a lot easier to set up and manage. So let's just get right into it. Reviewing PDF drawings for consultant coordination is obviously an important aspect of the design workflow. And ensuring that PDF documents are set up for ease of use and efficiency is going to be a big time saver when you spend weeks or even months in a project. A consultant might send you a single PDF with all of the drawing sheets combined in one document, or they might send them to you as individual sheets in something like a zip file. You want to be able to open the document and make it easy to navigate, and this starts with page labels. Let's have a look. So navigating the document via the next and previous buttons, it looks like these sheets are in order. But this is a tedious way to navigate a set of drawings. Ideally, you'd want to use thumbnails, but when we look at the thumbnails, it's not that much easier to try and find a specific sheet number. This is where page labels come in. Page labels are identified by the text marker underneath the thumbnail. In this case, those page labels are simply numbers, not necessarily sheet numbers. And I'm going to show you how to quickly generate these page labels. Create page labels. Click Page Region and select. So we want to choose the sheet number on a title block. In this case, the sheet doesn't have a title block. We're just going to quickly navigate to one that does and draw a rectangle around the sheet number. This prompts us with the AutoMark dialog. And so what it does is it relies on the OCR technology to grab the text from the region that we just drew. So there's region 1, and I'm going to add a marker in here, and a couple of spaces to make it a little bit more legible. And you can see the preview taking place here. I'm going to add one more region. And this region is going to pick up sheet name. There's a preview. Click OK. Now we're prompted to select the page range. I'm going to select all of them. Click OK. And depending on the number of sheets in the set, it can take a few seconds or a minute or two. Looks like it's done. And now you can see over here in the thumbnails panel, it's got a nice sheet number followed up by that space and hyphen that I inserted and the sheet name. And in the case of the cover sheet, because there was no title block, it couldn't find a region with a sheet number. So I'm going to double click on it and manually just add the word cover sheet. So all of our page labels are done, and makes it a lot easier to navigate by sheet number and gives us a preview of the sheet name. Another way you might want to navigate a set of drawings is through bookmarks. To do this, it relies on the AutoMark feature that generated the page labels for us. And if we click on the Bookmarks tab, you can see that they aren't generated. Easy to do though. Click on Create Bookmarks, and the page labels are already in place. We're going to select the entire page range, click OK, and it quickly generates them all. Now, can you imagine a construction set that's maybe got 200 or more pages, and you've got to sift through these, and you're continually referring to things like the transverse building sections? Well, here's a nice little tip. I can go ahead and select a couple of the bookmarks, like the transverse building sections, right-click on it, click Properties, and give it a color, so that every time I open the document and click on the bookmarks, I can see that the ones that I want to refer to more often are highlighted red, and they're just really quick and easy to navigate to. A natural progression in the process of document setup in a design workflow is batch link, found in Revu Extreme. I highlighted it in our introductory webinar a couple of weeks ago, and we believe hyperlinked documents are the best way to navigate the construction set. So the command relies on the page labels we generated with the AutoMark command earlier, and it hyperlinks them to things like detail, section, and elevation markers, so that when you click on a detail marker in the floor plan, it hyperlinks you to the corresponding page without having to dig through the sheets manually. Almost like a website. Now I'm going to show you how it's done. Batch drop-down menu, link, new. Add open files. Remember, we already used the page labels, so let's rely on those. Click Generate, and it generates a link to all of the pages in the document that had a page label. So one thing to keep in mind, if you didn't have a particular page included in your set, but you had it listed in, let's say, something like this sheet list on the cover sheet, it's not going to link them because it wasn't able to find a page label. Pop open the link options, and what I'm going to do is color all of the hyperlinks with a light blue outline so that they make them easier to find on the sheet. I'm going to run it, and again, depending on the size of the document, it takes a few seconds or a minute or two, and you can see that it's found 84 hyperlinks. I'm going to click Finish and Close, and you can see on the cover sheet all the sheets that have found it highlighted in blue. All the sheets that actually weren't included in this particular document are left out. But let's go ahead and zoom in, and we'll click on A 1.2.0. Nice, it links us right to the page. And now as we zoom in and navigate around the drawing, I can see that there's a section marker linked to A 3.01. Click on that, and it brings us to the sheet. That said, that particular section marker was supposed to link us to drawing 2, and that's up here. Here's a nice little tip for you. We can control the action of that hyperlink. So if I navigate back to that particular sheet, A 1.2.0, and I zoom in on that hyperlink, right-click on it, and edit action, I can now control this action by snapshot view and get rectangle. And I know that that was on A 3.01, so I can click on it in the thumbnails, zoom out a little bit, and I can just draw a rectangle around drawing 2. Looks good. Click OK. Now navigating back to 1.2.0, and I'm going to zoom in on that hyperlink again for that section marker. And now when I click on the hyperlink, it's going to bring me to the page region rather than the overall page itself. A nice time-saving measure. So you might ask yourself, what if I don't have this batch link feature? Well, there is a process where you can manually go through and do it if you have standard version or CAD version, but the batch link feature is for the extreme version only. And that's why we recommend that all offices have at least one copy of Extreme, because it's worth its weight in gold. So we took this combined document from a consultant, added page labels, created thumbnails and bookmarks, hyperlinked it with batch link, and made it much easier to navigate. As a combined document, it's ideal for internal review or for sending to another consultant. But for long-term use, where sheets will be replaced, markups added, and multiple users involved, a set of individual sheets might be a better choice. I emphasize the word set because we can take a collection of individual sheets and use Bluebeam's set feature to have them collected as a set. The combined document limits the number of file users to one. A set of individual sheets will allow for multiple users to open different sheets at once. It makes the project more flexible. Additionally, when it comes to replacing sheets or markups, slip sheeting won't work well unless we have individual sheets. The batch slip sheet feature in Extreme is a process in which you can take a collection of revised drawings, let Bluebeam analyze which drawings in your current set contain the same page label, and then have Bluebeam automatically replace them. Huge time saver. And when it's done, it creates a nice record for you of exactly what sheets were replaced. In order to get this going, you need to have a look at how to extract sheets and set them up as a set. Remember, we're splitting up the sheets individually to make it easier to replace sheets and markups throughout the duration of the project with the use of batch slip sheet. To extract, we're simply going to hold down the Shift key, select all of the sheets in the thumbnails, right-click on the last file, and click Extract Pages. Page range is going to be all of them, and there's a few important options to pay attention to here. Extract pages as separate files, yes. Use the page label to name the files. Remember AutoMark? That came in handy here. And update hyperlinks to the relative paths. So even though we're splitting up the document into several individual sheets, this allows us to retain all of the hyperlinks that were created with batch link. Click OK, and select a folder. I've got sheets here. It's going to process it, but it's found an issue. And that issue is an invalid character in the form of a hyphen that was part of our page label. But it's not a big deal. Bluebeam's going to go ahead and replace that invalid character with an underscore for us. Save us a lot of time. That's done. I can go ahead and close that file, and I can pop open Windows Explorer. And in that folder, there's all of those individual sheets ready to go. So, a reminder, we've extracted sheets to create a set, which will allow multiple users to work on different sheets in the set, and to make it easier for replacing drawings with revisions using batch slip sheet when the time comes. Now I'm going to navigate back to the Bluebeam application, and I'm going to go to the Sets panel. If you don't see it, right-click on some blank space in the panel access. Mouse over Show, and click Sets. I'm going to click New Set, and direct it to the folder which is storing all of the recently extracted pages. It loads them, and you might notice by default, Use Relative Path is selected. This ensures that any file within the set can be found even if it gets moved. These options over here allow us to make changes to the order of sheets as well as make changes to the sheet tags for use with a drawing log, or create and manage categories if we're adding them to a set from disciplines like structural, mechanical, or electrical. This is a pretty straightforward architectural set, so with a couple of clicks of OK, I'm going to proceed and create this set. So a set has been created, and now we want to save it. This save creates a proprietary Bluebeam BBX file that manages this collection of documents as a set. So now that we have our set ready, it's going to be easy to replace sheets with revisions when the time comes. We can replace sheets manually one by one if we want to, But as mentioned earlier, Bluebeam has a batch slip sheet feature, which can detect differences in drawings and automatically replace them and keep track of it all in a nice report. Let's have a look. A reminder that the batch features I'm showing you, like batch link and batch slip sheet, are only available in Bluebeam Revu Extreme. You can manually replace sheets in the standard and CAN versions, but not in a bulk and automated way like I'm going to show you. So, slip sheet. I'm going to add the open set to the current files, and then I'm going to add a folder where the revisions reside. Go ahead and match pages. And the next dialog box that opens shows us the pages that are matched in this tab and the unmatched pages in the other. You can see one unmatched page here. Typically, we don't need to pay too much attention to this, but here's a bit of insight. We knew that the revised drawing folder that we added contained all of the drawings we wanted, but it looks like this lone unmatched page is due to the fact that the file name is different. The original doesn't contain the underscore like the revision, but that's okay. Bluebeam will match them for us. We just need to point the corresponding sheet to be replaced. So, click on the revised sheet, click on the current sheet, and now we can click match pages, and it pushes it over to the matched pages column. So there's a couple of other options we need to pay attention to before we proceed. And we've got insert revised pages before current pages and replace the current pages with the revised pages. Inserting the revised pages gives you a clear picture of what's been superseded, and we need to enable this stamped option to make this clear once the set has been produced. Also, if we had some markups that we placed, it would take all of those markups off the original, scrape them onto the new one, and there'd be no need for us to repeat the markup work. And a reminder that we'll dig into markups in a separate webinar in a couple weeks' time. So let's go ahead and click OK. It processes it. And again, we're prompted to edit tags for sets pertaining to the creation of a drawing log. You might have seen this earlier when we first created the set, but it's not our focus at the moment, and we can cover it in another session. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. One more option that pops up is the ability to create a detailed summary of what has been replaced. You might find this handy. We'll go ahead and have a quick look at it. It's a separate document just for your records and hyperlinks which pages have been replaced with what. So now we can have a look at the set, and you can see as we scroll through, the pages have been replaced in a bulk and automated manner, and the way in which it's displayed is quite nice. So I know that A1.1.1 was replaced. There it is, but in behind it, and through this little arrow on the thumbnail, we can see that it's superseded this sheet. So it's nice and clear, and sets combined with batch slip sheet are going to be your go-to features in Bluebeam Revu for drawing package management over the course of a project. And those similar steps that we took earlier with generating page labels using AutoMark and hyperlinking using batchlink were important to getting us to this point and allow for ease of use when navigating the drawing set. So this about wraps up our webinar on document setup and management in Bluebeam Revu, and I think it's a good time to open up the session for questions. So, just going to have a look here at our questions list. And let's see if we've got some here. When you did the section on bookmarks, I didn't understand why every page in a set would be a bookmark. So yeah, that was a really generalized manner in which I showed you bookmark creation, just how to do it quickly. You can then go through that list of bookmarks if you like, edit them, delete them. You can also nest them under, let's say you had a 100 series, you could take 1.1 through 1.5 and nest those under 1.0 if you wanted to. And you can also create individual bookmarks from particular sheets within the document as well. Just see if there's any more questions. Does BatchLink ever make mistakes when it does the hyperlinks? I haven't seen it make any mistakes, but maybe there's a couple of things I should make you aware of where it can get confused. And I can't stress enough the importance of making sure that the naming of your um, sheet numbers in the title block and the sheet numbers in your callouts is consistent. For instance, A 1.2.0 on your title block has to be named 1.2.0 in the callout. If you call it 1 1.2, it's going to get mixed up and it's not going to make the connection. So that's a good question. Any other questions out there? All right, so if that's about it for questions, I should probably make you aware of some pricing. Bluebeam Revu starts at $260 for the Mac version and goes up to $780 for the license of Extreme that contains a lot of these features we talked about today, the batch features like batch link and batch sheet slip. So yeah, feel free to reach out to us at sales@resolve.ca, and my colleague Drew can set you up with a quote for a single seat or for your entire office. And on that note, thanks for joining us, and keep your eye out for an invitation to our next Bluebeam webinar about markups in the coming weeks. Thanks, and have a good day.